Yes, hello, good morning. You are very welcome and thanks for joining today. I'm Rob McGee, I'm the CEO at Ingenio. This week, to celebrate International Women's Day, I'm talking with 8 female leaders from right across the tech, software and SaaS industries. And I'm absolutely delighted and very honoured to be joined this morning by actually one of our clients. Louella Morton is co-founder and exec director at Testreach, who are headquartered in Dublin. Louella, delighted to have you with us today. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, thank you very much indeed for inviting me. I think that it's a mutual feeling of thankfulness because I'm delighted to be here and to be chatting to you this morning.
Great. Well, listen, it's a pleasure. Louella, obviously I know you and I know the team at Testreach very well, but for those who are tuned in this morning who don't know you and don't know Testreach, can you give us a little bit of a background and an introduction?
Yeah, sure. So Testreach is software for running assessments. So when you think of assessments, like we have a huge amount of functionality around authoring, and sometimes our clients, like it's really complex authoring where they could have 200 or 300 authors. Then you have the whole thing of actually delivering out the test. So, computer-based testing, delivering it out on computers. Then you have the marking piece. So a lot of questions are auto-scored, like your traditional multiple choice. But obviously, like if you have essays or spreadsheets or that type of thing, then they have to be manually marked. And then you have your whole results processing. Now, I guess the secret sauce about Testreach is the fact that we have inbuilt remote invigilation. So what that means is that instead of you physically having to go to a test center to take your exam, we can turn on a flag, which means our trained supervisors then monitor you taking your exam in your home office, at your workplace for the duration of the exam. So it effectively recreates the exam hall environment, but everything is done online. So you have the flexibility to take the exam wherever you wish.
Interesting. And the types of organizations, Louella, that you are who are typically consuming your software, talk to me about them.
Yeah, so I guess when everyone thinks about exams, they think about, your school exams or your college exams or whatever. But actually, there's an awful lot of professional exams out there. So we work an awful lot with, say, professional bodies, royal colleges, etc., who do more your post or your post third level kind of qualifications. So that could be the likes of ACCA, it could be the likes of the Royal College of Physicians in Ireland, it could be, those kinds of organizations who offer those kind of professional qualifications, because many of those organizations are kind of pushing out across country boundaries. So they're pushing into different regions, etc. So it's difficult for them to source and manage test centers.
Got it. We, Louella, Ingenio have been working with Testreach now for over 2 years. And I guess when I met you guys originally, you were less than 20 people, and co-founders do lots of different jobs in businesses, as I well know myself. And sometimes it's a very grand title. And as I said to someone yesterday, I was washing cups just the other day, so it's everything in between. But what is it that you, I guess, focus in on or specialize within the business?
Yeah, so I guess my background was originally technical. I did computer science in Trinity many moons ago. But I guess at some point, fairly early on in my career, I worked as a developer for a while, but I kind of made that crossover where I started to get more involved, and I was in services, kind of the project management side. Then I came up through services and kind of then got more involved in the kind of account management side. So I now in the business do all the commercial side of the business. So I would do a lot of the sales. I look after sales and also the kind of contracts piece. That would be under my remit. So it's really about, I'm good. That's what I do. I grow businesses. So it's going well.
Great. Fantastic. People who are tuned in, Louella, I think for the most part are really are really interested and invested in this session to help themselves, and look, that's certainly what you and I are in this for. What I've tried to do this week with the eight leaders, I guess, that we're speaking to, is to try and get a bit of commonality and a bit of trends. But definitely to have a little bit of personality and opinion to 5 questions, right? So the same 5 questions to 8 people, but obviously answered incredibly differently. But just digging into those questions, and maybe to start, when you look back at, and I didn't know that about you, by the way. I didn't know that you'd started in a kind of a computer science background and come, all the way through to commercial. But when you look back at your career, Louella, what are you most proud of?
I think definitely, I think it would come down to starting my own business, because that was like realizing a dream and growing that business, seeing it successfully grow. I mean, it's like almost, you've planted a seed and, you watch it and the shoots and leaves all start sprouting up. I get a huge buzz out of that. I'm really proud of it. And I also like that feeling every time we win a new customer, every time we get, we reach a new high in terms of the number of thousands of exams we've run in a day or something. Like that is all, like the reward is massive. So I'd have to say definitely, that has been the cream on the cake for me. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Amazing. How long, again, for people, how long has that journey taken now from literally the first day to
the inception?
Yeah.
Well, I think the initial thoughts and ideas behind Testreach were kind of starting to bubble around 2012. But there's stops and starts along the way. So I think it wasn't just all a kind of linear curve. I mean, it was definitely a little bit up and down in terms of the progress we were making.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been the overall duration, I would say.
Brilliant. If you look back to, I guess, you starting off, and you were to give yourself one bit of advice starting again, not to say that you would necessarily do anything different, but what would that one piece of advice be to someone maybe who is tuned into Louella Morton today and starting their career?
I think it's a really good question. And I think what I would say is, don't be afraid to back yourself and believe in yourself. I think in the early stages of my career, if I attended a meeting or a presentation or something and I didn't get what they were talking about, I just assumed it was me who, I'm a bit lacking here. I don't really understand this.
Yeah.
Whereas now I kind of know if I don't understand it, nobody in the room probably understands it either. And it's probably more a factor the person isn't presenting it very well. And I think sometimes that can go into, people who are more senior than you in organizations. When I was younger, I automatically assumed that they knew more, that they were better or whatever. And sometimes that caused ructions because I ended up, being given a to-do list, running around like a mad thing. Whereas now I'd be going, this is a ridiculous to-do list. Like, we need to change this to-do list. So I think it's, if your gut feel, don't just think you don't have the experience. Just challenge things. And maybe you're wrong, but you should just ask the question anyway.
Got it. Does that, does the confidence, like that's a really interesting, it's a really interesting piece of advice. Does the confidence to challenge what you've said there, does the confidence to challenge, does that come almost with experience, or like can you learn that?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think it does definitely come with experience, and it also comes with you achieving things. I think certainly in my case, you realize that hold on, I was able to do that, so therefore my opinion does matter. I think that I don't know that you can necessarily learn it. I think you've got to not be afraid to say something and just pop it out there as a question, even if you don't have the confidence. Just try it, send the email and ask the question. Nobody's going to hit you over the head for it. At least if they do, they're the wrong person, and it's on them, But I think you've got to just have enough courage just to ask the question, because if you could be very valid in what you're saying. So just do ask it.
Yeah, courage. I love it. I love it. The courage to ask the question.
Yeah.
Tell me this. If you think about, I guess, the best or the most worthwhile investment that you've ever made, and I leave that question intentionally vague.
Hanging. Yeah.
Could be money, it could be time, it could be energy, it could be, you know, a relationship, whatever the case may be. What kind of comes to mind when you think back on that?
Well, I'm going to be really cliched on this one, and I'm going to say my kids. I mean, the sheer investment of time, blood, sweat, and tears you have to put into your children, you know, from the
Yeah,
time that they're young through to the time that they're growing up. But the reward is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there isn't a day goes by when everything melts away because of something one of my kids says or does, you know.
yeah,
And even now, you know, when the times are hard and they're all being homeschooled at the moment, you know, and every 5 seconds it's I've no rubber, where's my stapler, I can't do this, how do I add 4 and 3, you know, all of this stuff. And you're just like, you want to throttle them, but at the same time, you know, you make the investment. And it's a bit like, again, you see them flourishing, and you see, you know,
yeah,
that just gives me such a huge sense of you know, just proudness. And you know, it's so worth the investment. To I'm not saying I've got it right, but you know, it's just wonderful seeing that
yeah,
the reward coming back
yeah.
from the investment.
Far from a cliche, Louella, far from a cliche. Tell me, in terms of the reward, or sorry, not the reward, the return on investment, has the return on investment in terms of that feeling when they went back to school, are any of them back at that stage yet? Or
No, none of them are back yet. So the return on investment, yeah. I mean, I think, you know, there comes a time in your life when they're all little smallies, just the
yeah,
amount you have to give is just massive. And, you know, really only you get a smile back or a little Google or something. Whereas now, you know, you're really starting to reap the rewards of it, where, you know, they're having chats with you. Sometimes I marvel at the chats I'm able to have with the kids now, just about nonsense, you know, but I
yeah,
really, really enjoy it, you know.
yeah. Great, great. I love that. I love that. Um, just shifting very, very slightly, and I guess the reason I ask this question is it's not to be material in any way, but you know, is there anything that you've bought or purchased in the not so distant future, or relatively recently, that has really positively impacted your life?
Yeah, well, I am inherently lazy. So if
Okay.
the, and I'm sure if any of my friends are watching this, they'll roar laughing, because I was always the one trying to dodge training. I used to play an awful lot of hockey, but I was always like, the training happened first. So I'd arrive like after the training had finished and everything. And so, you know, if there's any way for me to get out of exercise, I'll wriggle out of it. But, you know, the kids were mad for bicycles and everything. So we got a load of bikes, and I decided to invest in an electric bike. And
Okay.
it has been a sea change for me, because you know, when you're going out, I mean, the thoughts, if I know that we're going on a cycle, I know there's going to be a hill somewhere there, and I just won't go on the cycle because I'm like, I couldn't be bothered going up that hill.
Yeah.
Whereas you know, now, you know, I just flick in the gears, press a few buttons, and off the bike goes. So I can get up any hill. So it's now, it's like being a sea change. I'm really enjoying like getting out and cycling around the place, because and I love the fact that I'm always in the lead, because I can put it up to 3 and then I take off, and
Yeah.
I leave the kids for dust. So it's really enjoyable.
Ah, Luella, I love that. Absolutely love that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So was that a kind of a was that a lockdown purchase, or is that
No, it was actually just well, kind of on the brink of lockdown. It was probably about a year ago,
gotcha?
about this time a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Uh,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
So is it like, do you see yourself progressing now? Are you kind of saying, look, I've a little bit of the grow for cycling is back, or
Uh,
is that
Short of getting on a moped, I don't think I'm going to be. I wouldn't go be moving towards a non-electric bike. I'm
gotcha?
just loving the electric bike, and I kind of feel, you know, I'm all green as well going
Yeah.
along. But
Yeah.
you know, I think that it certainly made me, you know, like we went on a cycle down the Greenway, you know, down in Waterford, and I mean, I would have been like, oh, finding a million reasons why I didn't want to do
Yeah.
that, finding us a different holiday, you know. But we went
Yeah.
and did it, and I really, really enjoyed it. And
Fantastic.
it just opens up a whole new world to you when
Yeah.
when the barriers are kind of removed. And for me, that going up hills was always a barrier, I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Technology and enablement
Yeah,
equals enjoyment and fun. I love it.
yeah.
Um, Luella, just I guess kind of starting to kind of wrap up. And obviously, in terms of, I guess, some of the stuff that Ingenio are doing for clients, but probably more importantly, candidates, the vast majority of people that are tuned in today are either, arriving into the workforce for the first time from, education, college, university, whatever the case may be, and have identified an industry, or have identified tech, SaaS, software as an industry that they want to go to. Or there's a large cohort of people who need to pivot or transition or shift industry, for lots of different reasons. What's the one, and you guys have obviously hired a lot of people recently, and you've, to great success. What's the one tip that you would give to someone, Louella, who wants to get into the tech industry right now?
I think it has to be do your homework. So many tech companies now, yes, they are looking, say, for a particular skill. But if you're a raw graduate coming out, we're not looking for a particular skill. We're very much focused on the person. Yeah. And if you rock up for an interview and say, in our case, you don't really know what we do, you have to know at a very minimum, you need the website inside out. You need to be looking at the latest blog post, the latest media post, what's news in that company. You should also do your homework about the individual. I do have a technical background. Now, that's not saying that I'm heavily technical, but I certainly know my way around, the whole technology space. And, if somebody comes in and they haven't done their homework on me and they start spouting rubbish in technology, trying to impress me with 3-letter acronyms, that's a big red X. So I think you need to do your homework about the company, a really strong homework. And you also need to do your homework about the individual. And that's hard because, if you're desperately looking for a job, you could have applied to loads of different places, but you've got to do your homework. And you will stand out from the crowd if you're able to say things that, the interviewer isn't expecting you to say, that you can relate to something that they've maybe posted on their Twitter account or something. It'll really stand to you. So I would definitely say to prepare, because on the flip side of that, if I'm interviewing somebody and it's clear they really haven't got a clue what the company does and we're just another CV handed in somewhere, you're gone, no matter how good you are. Yeah.
How, Louella, to I guess, give people a bit of insight, like, an unbelievably valuable piece of advice. It's not, there's nothing eureka in what you're saying there, right? But, no. To prove that point, how quickly do you think into an interview that someone hasn't done their homework?
Oh, you would know very quickly. You would know very quickly, because typically, the question, like, what do you bring to this role, right? Well, if you don't really know what the role is and you don't know what the responsibilities are, or you have a vague idea, say that it's a project manager, you're going to chart out, or you're going to spit out the kind of generic stuff. What'll make you stand out is the specific things. Yeah. The very specific things that you bring to that specific role. Otherwise, you're just one of a number. And I do think, like, you need to know about the role and be very specific about that. But I would know, anyone would know very, very quickly that somebody is just rocking up and hasn't got a clue.
Yeah. Do you think articulating that you've done your research and your homework, is it any easier or more difficult, interviewing remotely, interviewing over Zoom, or again, is it equally as evident?
I actually think it's absolutely equally as evident. I've been involved in so many conversations and meetings through Zoom, and every so often you hear this, there's nothing like meeting in person. And yes, you can meet in person, but you get a really good sense of a person over, like, if you're on the Zoom call with them for an hour, you'll get a really good sense of who they are. And you can create that environment where you're chatting. And I think that I actually am an advocate of, it doesn't make a difference. And I think when you weigh up the benefits of, look at, I just think of how many times I would have to travel to go to different meetings or to do different interviews, the amount of time we waste, and then you end up compressing other parts of your life. It's a no-brainer for me that we should move everything online permanently.
Yeah. And so say all of us, and obviously you and the guys in Testreach have, I mean, look at you've the most incredible platform that was really, that was really primed for the world moving online. And yeah, absolutely. Look, it's great to see you guys achieve the level of success that you have, and then just to see that being kind of magnified over the last 12 months. So yeah, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
Louella, look, on behalf of the team here at Ingenio, look, and myself, but more importantly, people who are tuned in to listen to you. Look, I just wanted to say a massive thanks. I think, the insight that you've given, to you as an individual, to the business, to your experience, like, it's hugely valuable to people. And look, on behalf of everyone, I just wanted to say a massive thanks. Very, very good of you to give your time and thoughts and everything else.
Very welcome. It's been a bit of fun. So thank you for inviting me on.
Most welcome, most welcome. So folks, thanks a million for joining. We hope you found that useful. And look, to help people who want to get hired in tech, we've developed a platform and a course called Ingenio Learning. We're going to be sending out some details which provides for a discount against the course, as well as providing some one-to-one assistance around CV and profile. The details will be dropped into the chat and sent out on email afterwards. But from all of us here, Louella, thanks a million. And folks, look after yourselves. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks, Emil.
Take care.